What's the fastest you've ever gone from caring about someone to straight up loathing them? My, at the time girlfriend, had a little sister. She was graduating from college, and her college was not close by. It was a few states away, and at least a 5 hours drive. We both loved the sister, but we weren't going to make it to her graduation. We couldn't afford a hotel for the weekend, and we couldn't take off from work to get there on time. She freaked out on us. It was the biggest tantrum I've seen an adult make. My girlfriend and I both assumed it wasn't that big of a deal, but seeing how much her sister freaked out, we reevaluated the situation. So, we packed up quickly, and drove through the night to get there. She told us we could sleep in her apartment that night, but that we'd need to get a hotel the following night. That was fine. We found something online for like $100 per night. We got to her place in record time. It was not even midnight. We felt like heroes for making up so quickly. We get to her apartment, and she won't let us in. She says she's already in bed, and we should have gotten there earlier if we wanted to take her up on her offer. So, we're both exhausted, and we have nowhere to stay. I wanted to just turn around and go back home, but my girlfriend was a better person than me. Luckily we had other friends in the city, and one was nice enough to give us the couches for the night. It's been like 15 years, and I assume the sister was getting one last lay with a college hookup, because I could not imagine any other scenario where she couldn't simply walk down 2 flights of stairs to open the door for us. I ended up marrying the girlfriend, and still bring up this situation anytime she gets in a fight with her sister. It's usually, "I can't believe how selfish my sister is being," and I go, "You can't. Remember that time we drove to her college GRA, and she cuts me off?" Of course she also remembers it. Had a really great friend in high school. He was cool, but he's always be trying to sell stuff to people in the hallways, like video games or pocket knives or sunglasses. After over a year of being friends with him, he came over to my house to hang out, and when he left, a bunch of my favorite video games were missing. I realized what was happening, and I had plans on forgiving him if he just fessed up and apologized. Instead he got super defensive and angry, and I instantly lost any respect I had for the guy. My mother was an alcoholic growing up. I used to take her side in all the fights she had with my dad. When I was at an older age, I realized she was using my dad. She had no job, and my dad, who was 64, was working his ass off to pay for my sister, me and my parents. Then my dad said we didn't have enough money for something, and basically my mum said so. We're poor. My parents later split up, and she found another boyfriend almost instantly. She still didn't have a job, so I figured out that she used my dad, then was using her boyfriend. Yeah, it was messed up. A coworker was talking to me about the issues he was having with his 12-year-old stepdaughter. Another coworker sitting by us asked, "Have you tried raping her?" Thought he was an okay guy, but not after that line. The day he was fired was a good day. Follow up: he had only worked there about 2 months. Didn't talk much. So that was a pretty messed up first comment to a private conversation. I think or hope he was trying to be funny. He was fired about 9 days later. No reason was given to the rest of the crew. Boss just said Greg has been let go. My best friend, who I considered a brother, was working for me. I called him to talk about the next job, construction, and he informed me that he had started his own company and taken my other full-time employee with him who was working with me that day. Yeah, needless to say that one stung for a bit. We're cordial now, but it will never be the same after that. It's been 3 years. Had made some plans with the GF at the time for Valentine's Day. This was back in late HS. Had called her on the phone a few hours before to reconfirm details, and she abruptly begged off cause supposedly her parents were going to be having a date of their own later that evening, and so she was being assigned to take care of her grandma for the day. Her grandmother needed constant care, so it wasn't especially unusual for one of her parents to be taking a day to stay with her. She was supposed to leave pretty early in the afternoon and be with her all evening. So I decided that the least I could do was maybe drop off some flowers and chocolates in basket and stuff so she'd have something nice waiting when she got back. Spent a bunch of money on getting something nice. Showed up at her place around 5, expecting just her parents to be there, and not only was she the one to answer the door, I could clearly hear both her parents chatting away in the background and there was no grandmother to be seen. Turned out, she just didn't have the guts to bite the bullet and properly break up with me. She was just going to keep cancelling until I got the picture or something. When my grandfather screamed at my mother that she had ruined his life by being born, never spoke to him again after that. Gave my roommate an envelope with a money order for bills in it, to drop in the mail. He got arrested. While looking for some of his documents to take to him, I found the opened, empty envelope in his closet. Peace out. I didn't have a good relationship with my family, and my INLAWs were incredible. They would help out whenever and however they could. Then my daughter, elementary school aged at the time, told me that my father-in-law had molested her. I worked for my stepmom with the intent that I would take over the business when she retired in a few years. I took more than a 50% pay cut and left my career of 10 years of managing and leading organizations to come work for her. Those few years came and went with her unable to even talk about a timeline for retirement. I spent years trying to fix processes and procedures around the office to make her life easier and to make the general workflow easier for all employees. But she was completely resistant to any change from the status quo, while simultaneously always complaining about how busy she was and how we just didn't have any good processes in place. I finally confronted her about her retirement timeline and putting it in writing that I would be her succession plan. She balked at even putting together a plan for her retirement. I let her know that I really couldn't hang around if there weren't any prospects for advancement or pay increases. My wife secured a job in a new town and I gave my stepmom a 6-month notice that we would be moving. I explained that I would be more than willing to help hire and train my replacement and finish formalizing all of the procedures I had developed in my time there. She fired me the next business day. That bitch. My brand new stepmother cried at me in public because she had left her purse at their wedding venue. I, an 11-year-old, was supposed to have known somehow to keep an eye on it for her. I didn't hate her right away, but that was definitely a switch flip moment on how I felt about her. When my best friend of 10 years slept with my boyfriend of 2 years, I was so crushed, but to be honest was more angry with the friend. I truly did believe that I was deeply in love with the boyfriend, but he was kind of a shithead to begin with. I saw my friend as a sister and her betrayal left longer lasting impact and hurt way more. I hated her in a violent way for a very long time. Fast forward 11 years and now I am to a point where I have forgiven her and wish her well, but would never let her back into my life again. Friend at a bar tells some people we just met how her mother died. Later in the night I express my sympathy. Now she's without parents. She told me hush hush a few years prior about how father had passed. Wait, did I tell you back then my dad died? I thought I told you it was my mum. No, both my parents are still alive. When we were in uni I just read in a book telling people a parent has died is a good way to get sympathy. Ha ha. Sociopath. She accused my dad of sexually assaulting her at a sleepover, went to court, and after first day of trial she admitted she made it up because she was jealous of my relationship with my parents. Meanwhile, my dad's legal bill was $17,000, and her family immediately filed for bankruptcy a week after, so we couldn't pursue them civilly. They were legit poor, so wouldn't have made a difference. Comes out later she had done the same thing before. She's been married, divorced. And the kicker is her current common-law husband is her ex-husband's friend's father. Heinous. My mother fought cancer for 5 years. My father let my sister and I do 95% of the work, caregiving, and after her death expected us to step into her place and take care of him. The man I used to love and respect is gone and I can't stand to be around him anymore. I had a friend a while back. Neat guy, liked video games, anime. One of the few people willing to go in on a pen and paper RPG. Didn't interact with him outside of these sorts of events. One time, a bunch of us went to grab dinner before seeing a limited run anime movie. This guy special orders absolutely everything. Won't pick something on the menu. Standard grill fare, doesn't just ask for special order. Demands it. Calls the waitress names and is just a total dick. When I confronted him about it, he started shouting and making a huge scene in the restaurant. The rest of the night was massively awkward. After that, I just ghosted him. People who treat others poorly like that have no place in my life. You can tell the character of a person based on how they treat someone they don't have to be kind or nice to. I'm so late. But I have a story that isn't if the cheating variety and made me lose any respect for 3 people at once. Late high school years. A friend in our group had invited everyone to hang out at his parents' house. We were supposed to agree on a time the day of, but people weren't answering my calls or messages or were really vague. It was almost 7 p.m., which was a couple of hours later than I'd figured, so I decided to drive over. Sent one guy a message saying no one's really answering, so I'll just go ring the friend's doorbell. So all of a sudden, the friend calls me and says he was caught up in something and the whole thing might be off. He'll let me know. Thing is, he called me when I was just parking in front of his house, and had a clear view of almost everyone in my group in his house. I let the call go on for several minutes, watching him motion people to be quiet, doing the talking hand yada yada gesture etc., without letting him know I was watching him, until the dude finally spotted my car. He then, very obviously, told everyone to hide because he thought I'd just pulled up. And one guy who also pretended to be my friend actually hit the ground together with his girlfriend to avoid being seen from the window. So those 3 people, 2 friends and the girlfriend of one, I have absolutely zero respect for. Also, I have nothing to do with any of them anymore, so that's nice. Then again, I also very clearly saw one real friend tell the friend off. He also called me immediately and said to wait up. He'd rather hang out with me than those assholes. 20 years later, we're still very close and effectively formed a new group of friends. So big silver lining.